It's not about them forgiving you. It is about you forgiving them and forgiving yourself. And so whether or not, I tell teenage girls this all the time, whether or not your family or that friend says sorry to you, that is not what you are trying to get at. What you are trying to get at walking away is that you have apologized for where you have wronged them. And if you can walk away with that in peace, knowing, hey, like I'm laying this down. Like no longer is this grudge that I was holding on to gonna have hold of me and like enslave me. I'm gonna let it go. And when I see them now, I'm not gonna think of them in that way. I'm gonna think of them in the same way the Lord would. And so if they can just get over trying to get the apology from the other person and realize it's not about that, they'll save so much of their
Hey guys, welcome back to the Faith Ignite podcast, and we're so excited you decided to join us for today's episode. Hey, and before we jump into who our guest is for today, I want to ask you to do a few things for me. Hey, if this podcast has been helping you, shaping you, encouraging you, motivating you, hey, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you are aware when new episodes are released every single week. Hey, if you want to take your faith just one step further, you can become a financial partner of this ministry. You can follow the link below. It'll take you to our website, and you can partner with us there, because when you do so, you help us take these stories of faith around the world to the people that need them. Hey, and lastly, if something's going on in your life, hey, we want to hear about it. You can drop a comment below. We would love to celebrate what God's doing in your life, because it makes a difference. The things that you're doing and helping this ministry with, it's making a difference. Just to give you a quick story, we've had a guy that was on the podcast a little while ago, stepped out, trusted God, and he didn't know how these resources were going to come. But because of your generosity, we were able to cut him a check for $1,000 to be able to plant that church in Arkansas. And now we're seeing the fruit of what God is doing in Fayetteville because of your generosity. And so just know, when you partner with this ministry, we are helping in a tangible way to be able to encourage these stories and be able to encourage people that are believing God for things and meet that in a practical way. And so thank you so much. And hey, if you want to continue, like I said, you can follow the link. It'll take you to our website, and you can be able to partner with us there. So now that we got all that out of the way, today's guest, my wife and I, we've known her probably for a little bit about a year, maybe two-ish. So we got some history, but we go to the same church. She has been in ministry probably for the past 3-ish years. Originally went to Northeastern State University to study early childhood education, or education in some form or capacity, and thought she was going to be a teacher. And now that I think about it, you actually do have really good, like you seem like a natural fit for a teacher. And so when she's not doing things at work, she is huge into fitness. So basketball, pickleball, she's the kind of person that any coach would love, because she's so versatile. She could play anything. And so if she's not at work, she's probably doing something fitness related. Her family's here in Tulsa, grew up in Texas, I believe. Correct?
Grew up in Oklahoma, but moved to Texas.
Got it. Okay.
Also lived in North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. So she's from all over. But she's been all over. But hey, I guess she can call Oklahoma home. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Oklahoma's home. Hey, and then she is a big OU fan. And I am not super aware how OU is doing. I'm assuming they're not doing well because they're not on the headlines.
Nope, not great.
Okay, but she's still a loyal fan.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go kind of dissect who our guest is. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me welcome Alleigh Jezek.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to this, and I was like, oh, we about to have some fun today.
Yeah, I appreciate the versatile in all the sports.
Oh, yeah.
I feel very good about myself now.
Absolutely. And so, like, one way we always like to start off, like, who do I have the pleasure of sitting with? Mm-hmm. Who is gracing our presence in that chair?
Yeah, I love the thought of that question, because if you asked people at different stages of my life, everyone has a different answer. So because I've moved around so much, I grew up here till I was about 12. Okay. And then I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. And so if you'd ask anybody in that time frame of my life, the answer to the who is Alleigh question would be very different from the people who know me now. Okay. And so, man, none of my past defines me in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. So who is Alleigh? Man, she loves to work out and play sports and play pickleball and be outside. But beyond that, if I'm not doing any of those things, I'm in church and spending time with the Lord and with my friends and doing what the Lord has called me to do. Yeah. And that's ministry in this season of my life for the last 3 years, which has been awesome. But who is Alleigh? I mean, in a small way, like, I'm who the Lord has defined me and called
Yeah.
me to be, and just
Yeah.
walking in his calling and in his ways right now. So,
Okay. So let me ask you. So
mhm.
growing up in North Carolina.
Yeah,
Okay. So I guess you were born there, so you didn't have any choice moving there.
right.
So I'm guessing work took your family there.
Yeah, so I have divorced parents.
Okay.
So my stepdad worked for a company called MetLife, and it
Okay,
got
yeah.
moved to like Mass Mutual at one point, moved us to Charlotte. So my dad actually stayed here because divorced parents, and he
Yeah.
lived here.
Okay.
And my sister was a senior and also chose to then move in with my dad
Okay.
instead of living with my mom still. And so my mom, my stepdad, myself, and my papa
Okay.
moved to Charlotte, North Carolina
Got it.
together when
The
I
whole
was
family
12.
move up and
Yeah.
left.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So they're from, you said from when you were born to, well, how old?
12.
Till you were 12.
Yeah.
And so usually those are the formative years of someone's
Mhm.
life. And so like, what
Yeah.
was that like? I mean, I'm not sure if your family grew up in church, if that was ingrained in you as a kid,
Yeah.
but what was those formative years like living out in the Carolinas?
Yeah. So we did grow up going to church, but I say that so lightly because I was very involved in competitive sports,
Okay.
basketball and soccer, and those are both like opposite seasons.
Yeah.
And basically every weekend
Yeah.
we had something. And so by growing up in church, I mean, we went maybe, I want to say 6 times a year.
A year?
Yeah.
So Christmas and Easter.
Yeah, we were
And
the
then for the
CEO,
time-
the Christmas Easter only family. Yep. Yeah.
Dang. So 6 times a year.
Yes, but I will say it's so interesting because when I look back, like there were some values that my parents would hold
Okay.
that were very like Christian like, where they would push certain things, but then there was never a relationship. So it was
Okay.
about like, all right, we got to go to church sometimes. Like
Okay.
we'll talk about God sometimes, and like you need to make sure and marry somebody who knows the
Yeah.
Lord. Like that, it was funny that was the one
Okay.
thing. But then everything else was so like loose. Like,
Okay.
okay, well, if you're doing those things, like do whatever you want,
Yeah.
essentially.
As long as you
So-
follow those couple of rules, you're good.
Right. Yeah. And we had
Okay.
like good morals, but like it just wasn't ever a relationship. It was
Yeah.
never presented to me like that. I
Yeah.
just thought it was a bunch of rules, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I love you, Lord, but I'm not interested in
Yeah,
any
yeah,
of
yeah.
that. So
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
hmm
Okay. So fast forwarding now to after leaving at 12.
Uh-huh.
From there, came back to Oklahoma or went to Texas?
Well, it was Oklahoma, Charlotte. So
Okay.
Oklahoma to 12, Charlotte from 12 to 16 or 17.
Okay.
So then after that, it was Texas. Then it was college. Brought my parents back to Tulsa.
Got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yep.
So growing up in, well, I guess I've heard it saying this way, like PKs make the worst kids.
Mhm.
But since you weren't a PK, so you don't really have a title to live up to.
Right.
You don't have a standard to live up
Uh-huh.
to. But like, what was that like? I mean, having divorced parents,
Mhm.
that probably does something to a kid.
Yeah, I think I struggled with like an identity crisis for
Mm.
most of my life, of just feeling like I always had to find my identity in something. So
Yeah.
like whether that was soccer, basketball, my achievements, because I was
Mhm.
naturally pretty good
Okay.
at whatever it was I did. So I would like find my identity in my success.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I turned to in life was guys to fill voids that my
Mm.
dad wasn't filling. Now, I was blessed. Like I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I would have never done any of that, because I had my papa
Mhm.
who lived with us and was such a great father figure in my family, and so was my stepdad.
Yeah.
But I think it was the constant hurt of knowing like, man, my dad like just, wasn't a part of
Yeah.
my life as much as I wanted him to be, and so I
Yeah.
would turn to things to fill that
Mm.
in my life.
And I've had friends that told me usually when there's a season in their life, if they have
Mhm.
come from broken homes, there's a season in their life where there's this rebellious period, or this period like, I'm trying to get back at my
Mm,
parent, whoever
Yeah.
whatever parent it is. And so like, I guess in this case, like you're saying, you're trying to find ways to fill that void because your dad
Yeah.
wasn't there.
mhm.
And I mean, if you look in the Bible, like it talks about the importance of having a father. I mean, God
Yeah.
affirms Jesus, and so same thing, fathers
Mhm.
affirm their kids.
Yep.
And so I can see how that can become a
Yeah.
little issue, especially as you go older and older.
hmm
That's it.
Yeah. And it was always so hard because we moved around so much.
Okay.
And so I there was never like a, you spend this weekend at dad's, this weekend at mom's. I
Okay.
lived with my mom, but there would be times that, like, because we were in Charlotte, I had to go visit my dad for a month.
Yeah.
And I was so stubborn. Like, I'm still a little bit stubborn, I'll admit. I didn't know the Lord, though. So I had, like, no shame. I was a very confident, outspoken, blunt, like, I will tell you how I feel.
Got it. Okay.
Girl. And still,
No
I
reservation.
am sometimes, but back then it was not good because I didn't, like, filter it through the lens of, like, okay, is this actually, like, gonna build somebody up? Is this gonna be good? And so when I did have to see my dad, I feel bad for him. Like, I was just not. I was like, you know what? You did this, and I'm gonna hold this grudge, like, over your head for the rest of your life. And so it made our relationship just so hard because we would just butt heads all the time. And then I would go home and I'd be like, that was awful, Mom. Don't. Like, I would cry at, like, the age of 17 because I had to go back and visit my dad. But I just never worked to fix that till I got older. So
talk to me about that.
Yeah.
That I've heard when there's unforgiveness or you're holding a grudge, it's like you're drinking poison expecting the other person to die. Yeah. So talk to me now. Like, now when you see your dad, like, instantly, like, something comes up where you're just like, you know what? You got all these flashes of memories. Yeah. And so, like, what was that like, of going through that process of forgiveness and healing? Yeah.
So I started running a lot after college. I was a runner my whole life, but I started running long. There's a reason. You're like, interesting way to start this. But I love running because it just gives me time to think. Okay. And so when I gave my life to Christ, like, conviction just started to set in like every area possible. And most of that took place on a run. Yeah. And there was so much. I was like, wow, there's a lot that I have to, like, change in my life. And it wasn't out of a place of, like, shame or guilt or, like, you need to do this for God to love you. It truly was like, all right, Lord, like, thank you for, like, the grace you've shown me now. Like, teach me how to live in your ways. And I just remember I think it was like a 12-mile run. And I was running down the creek. I was 21 years old. I was training for a marathon. And the whole time I was, like, going back and forth in my head of, like, playing out every moment with my dad and, like, why I should be allowed to be angry at him. Okay. And so trying to justify it. Yeah, trying to, like, justify in my head, but then also, like, thinking of his side of things. Okay. And, like, man, did I ever actually, like, love him well? And I was really, like, working out every scenario in my head. And I would run, like, 6 miles, like, that way and then 6 miles back the other way to get in, like, my 12. And I remember the 6 miles back, I was rehearsing what I was going to say to him whenever I was going to, like, confess, like, my wrongs, but also confess how he made me feel and why it has been the way that it is. Because I think so often it was like I would go to my dad's, I would leave, and, like, no one was getting anything out of it. And I could tell he was frustrated, just like I was. And so I felt like, man, if we're going to mend our relationship, you can't just shove 18 years of this under the rug. Yeah. Like, you have to address it. And so I finished that run and I got back and I remember I texted my dad and I was like, we need to talk. And so we did. Whenever you get that text message, that's never good. Like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? No, it was a good thing. But I spent all of that time, like, working out and almost, like, rehearsing, like, okay, this is what I'm going to say. This is how I'm going to try to say it. And this was early in to me giving my life to Christ, but I just knew it needed to happen. And I went over there and I remember he was, like, staining his fence. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, at least, like, you know, it's just nice when you're having an awkward conversation to be doing something. Yeah. It's like, at least he's staining his fence. But we're outside in the middle of the neighborhood. People are playing basketball. And I'm, like, about to, like, say the hardest thing of my life to him. Yeah. And I don't know if he was expecting it or not. But I could just tell he felt so uncomfortable. But I did. I laid out, like, hey, like, from being a kid, like, this is what hurt me. Like, it hurt that you didn't want to spend time with me. It hurt that you would go fishing and be at the lake and then I'd have to be with my stepmom instead of spend that time with you. And just addressed a lot of my life. I struggled with, like, my weight and, like, body shaming and things like that. And my dad played a part in that. And so I shared it. I was like, this is hard. But, like, it was hard whenever you'd be like, hey, you shouldn't have another milkshake. Like,
That's a nice way of saying it.
Right. Yeah. And so that was just hard, though, because we didn't have a relationship. And so when he would say things like that, it hurt. And so I shared that. And there's just a lot with divorce that, like, there's like court orders of certain things. And so I was like, sometimes it just feels like you're doing it because it says, I went through it all. But then on the back end, I said, but hey, like, I can admit that, like, I've done a lot wrong too.
Yeah.
Like, every time I come over, I put up a wall. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be around you. Like, I go against some of the things that you say on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, you, like, ask me to do something. I'm like, how can I not do this? And I will tell you, I did not leave that conversation where there was, like, a huge apology from his side. But there's something about forgiveness where it's not about the other person forgiving you. It's about you forgiving them and forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
And so I got to walk away with like the most peace I had ever had in my life. And I have Monday night dinner there. Every Monday night now. We've been doing it since it was around that time that the Lord convicted me. Like, you've got to spend like weekly time with this side of your family.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that. And now our relationship is amazing. Like, it has problems, but it's good.
Yeah. So what would you tell that person that's watching or listening on the other end of this camera where they have maybe not the same situation, but something similar? What would you tell them that could save them time, effort, money, peace, everything else?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's what I said earlier. It's not about them forgiving you. It is about you forgiving them and forgiving yourself. And so whether or not, I tell teenage girls this all the time, whether or not your family or that friend says sorry to you, that is not what you are trying to get at. What you are trying to get at walking away is that you have apologized for where you have wronged them. And if you can walk away with that in peace, knowing, hey, like, I'm laying this down. Like, no longer is this grudge that I was holding on to gonna have hold of me and like enslave me. I'm gonna let it go. And when I see them now, I'm not gonna think of them in that way. I'm gonna think of them in the same way the Lord would. Yeah. And so if they can just get over trying to get the apology from the other person and realize it's not about that, they'll save so much of their time.
Yeah. So. Okay. So switching gears here. So in ministry now for about 3 years, full time. Yeah. But walk me back to that moment when you realize, like, oof, I done messed up. I've been living my life on the wrong side of things. I thought life was good, but then I just got revealed, or this truth was just revealed to me. So walk me back to that moment when things changed, like life changed for Alleigh.
So I was actually in college. And there was a girl named Micah in my sorority, and I was into like everything. So like I would go out to parties, I would drink, I was like walking in sexual sin, and everybody else was. I was like, this is so fun.
It's
like,
normal.
What a life. And I will say it started young, like 15. Like I was already, which I will say, it's my personality. I thought it was cool when no one else was doing it. So when I got to college, it became not cool as much because I was like, wait, now everybody gets to do this. So it's not cool anymore. So it did, I will say it made me like reevaluate though. I was like, okay, wait, this isn't like, it's fun, but it's not the same kind of fun it was before. Because before it was like, oh, you're really cool because you like get away with doing all this stuff. And then I got to college and it was like, okay, everybody's doing this. But Micah was this girl in my sorority who would like always be picking people up from like parties and drinking, all this stuff. She'd be up till like 2 a.m. And the reason she did it is because she wanted them to like make it back safely, but also because she was ministering to them. And it wasn't in like a forceful way where you're like, oh great, she's coming to pick me up because she wants to tell me about Jesus. It was like in a loving way and a caring way. And so just while everybody was out doing whatever it was they were doing or getting frustrated with each other or fighting, it's girls and it's a sorority. And so there's drama. There was like a different kind of peace and like joy that she carried. And so I started spending time with her, which I know was the Lord in all of it. And I was just like, man, I've grown up knowing God. I always thought I knew God, but I was like, I don't know the same God you know.
Yeah,
like I don't have that. Yeah. And so I remember going on a walk with her and she had shared something that like shook me to my core, which this is a little controversial. So she had said to me, you know, Alleigh, it's really hard because like I love my friends who are walking in these deep sin, and the specific sin she mentioned was people who are gay or people who are lesbian. And she'd said, but I hate that they're walking in that sin and that could be the very thing that stops them from having a relationship with God and like spending eternity with him. And when I walked out of that, I was like, well, I'm going to hell then because I'm walking in I'm walking in all kinds of sin. Like it's not that, but like whoa, like, is sin that serious? Like, I
Yeah.
had never understood, like, the weight of sin and
Yeah.
not, like, being willing to surrender everything
Yeah.
to God. And, like, I remember reading, like, or hearing, like, some of the scriptures on that, like, particular topic, but I never understood it.
Yeah.
And so I went home that day. My stepdad actually used to be a pastor. And I was like, hey, Steve, answer this question for me. Like, if somebody is, like, gay and they, like, remain gay the rest of their life, they never turn from it, do they go to hell or heaven? And he looked at me, and he's so good, because he was like, you should look into that yourself. And, like, did not answer my question. And so I was like, well, I have to know the answer, you know? But I'm not a reader, and I can hardly pronounce any big words. And so the Bible was like, ooh, that's tough.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't even know where to start. And funny enough, there was, like, this Seamless Bible study book that, like, my sister happened to have, and my sister wasn't even, like, walking in a full relationship with God at that point, but she has this book, gives me this book, I start reading it, and it's, like, walking me through, like, a simpler understanding of the Bible. Like, the girl who wrote it started reading, like, children's Bibles to understand the Bible. So it just made it, like, crystal clear for me. So I read that, and it opened, like, truly God's word is what opened my eyes, because I understood, like, all the Old Testament stories you hear where people talk about, like, well, God flooded the earth, or God did this, like, he's an angry God. I was like, okay, wait. Like, I understand that, like, it may look like anger to the world, but gosh, he's so good. Yeah. Like, he's so merciful. Like, he didn't have to, like, watch any of that happen, but yet he did for us. And then I was able to connect, like, that to Jesus and the cross, and, like, begin to understand the Bible as, like, one whole story. Yes. And so the moment, though, like, the very moment that I believe I truly gave my life to Christ, I truly surrendered everything I was walking in. It was New Year's Eve, and I was 20 years old, and we had neighbors, and one of my neighbors was an alcoholic. And I remember telling my mom, like, we can't invite him because we're going to drink. I'm, like, 20 years old telling my mom this.
Mom, we're going to drink.
We're going to drink, and we can't invite him because I don't want him to get drunk, because he would go on these binges. He would leave his family. Like, we knew how bad it hurt them. And so I was like, we can't do that. And so we invite all of our neighbors, which were all best friends, by the way. Like, we went through COVID together. So, like, we played cards, we did everything.
That does something to you.
It does. It does. So we were close. And we're, like, having this, like, New Year's Eve party. And it's nothing crazy. It's not like my family's throwing this, like, rager. We're just, like, hanging out. But there's, like, alcohol involved. And my neighbor, who was an alcoholic, came over during the only time we were playing a game that required drinking. And he walked in and he drank. And I remember the next day, like, my mom and my stepdad, like, the weight of that on them was so different. And I, you know, me being stubborn, was like, well, he's the one who's an alcoholic, you know? Yeah. But I'm like, well, maybe I'm the one who's an alcoholic. Like, if I couldn't, like, surrender this. And it's when I begin to truly understand, like, what it meant to be, like, a stumbling block. And, like, really, it was that moment that I was like, okay, God, like, I understand why you choose to tell us to not get drunk and to not be a stumbling block and to not do this. It's not just for us, but it is for the people around us. And there was just an immense, like, understanding and, like, conviction that came upon me that day, where I was like, all right, I'm laying it down. And so from then on, I didn't, well, one, like, obey the laws of the land. You can't drink till you're 21. So I was like, all right, Lord, like, I'm laying it down. Like, I don't know if I'll ever drink again, but, like, right now, it's a sin for me to do this because I'm not obeying the laws of the land. And so that is the moment that changed everything, like, from my life, when I chose to finally lay down a piece of me that had been with me since I was, like, 15 years old. So
answer me this with that now. So at this point, you're 20.
What? When I was 20, yes.
So you're 20. So, and I mean, still in college, so you're around all your friends and everything. Now that you've made this decision, you got to go back now and tell everybody the decision you just made. And your friends are all like, they about that life, but now you just made a switch over the weekend. And now you made a 180, and so like, okay, like, what's going on here? So, like, how did you walk through that peer pressure of like, you know what, guys, I used to do that on Friday. Today's Monday. I don't do that no more. How did you walk through that?
It was so hard because I was at home. You know, it was over Christmas break, like New Year's is around that time. And I had good friends in college, but we didn't, like, hang out over break. So they had no clue, like, what was going on in my life. So coming back, it was really weird whenever they would be like, hey, you want to come and do this? And I'd be like, actually, like, no, like,
Yeah,
I
no.
think I'll just stay in tonight. And they knew because what I did change. Like, I would wake up before work and spend time with God. And I'm in a sorority house with 3 other people. So I'm not like intentionally doing it in public, although great, like if you're doing it in public, but I had to. Like, I had no option. And so I would go out, spend time with the Lord, and like they would see that. And I started getting involved in like campus ministry things, hanging out with Micah and Skylar more, which were 2 girls who knew the Lord, and everybody knew it. And I remember there was a point my friends were like talking in the room, and I came in and they like stopped.
Oh, no.
And
you're talking about me?
Well, they were like, we're not going to tell you because I think you'll judge us. And I was like, oh, that's really hard. And so I actually, because I'm stubborn, okay, and I'm outspoken, like when I commit, I commit. So I didn't struggle so much with the peer pressure of like, okay, let's go do this now, because I truly like left it behind. So that part wasn't as hard for me. The hard part was navigating like, I'm not judging you, you know, I'm not looking down on you, but they could not understand that. Like they couldn't see it. And it was around that time that like the Lord was changing my career path, and I ended up transferring like a semester later. And so I don't know what would have happened had I stayed, but it was nice to just cut ties, because that was the hard part, was how do I explain to somebody that I'm not judging them for what they're doing when they see that I used to do that and I'm not doing it anymore. And so I must have a reason and feel strongly about it. So that part was hard. Okay. But I got rid of like any, like Snapchat was the first app to go. So like I got rid of the option of
like what's
giving
the practical implications that you got, your life is born again? Like what's the practical application? Like someone that just got saved, like, okay, what do I do?
Yeah, I mean, for everybody, it's different. For me, I had to cut ties with any temptation that I had, because I knew that it would be too much. And so anything in my life that I was like, okay, they have tempted me to walk in the wrong, I'm just not going to surround myself with them anymore. Which looks weird. It can look like judging, but really you're doing it for yourself.
Like we don't hang out no more. Like, it ain't you, it's me.
Yeah, so I mean, I just got rid of any of that, and I stopped going to places that I knew would tempt me, and spent a lot of time with my family. I think I drove home every weekend that semester of college to go to church. And so it was a priority. I was serving, I was talking about it, but practical application, get rid of anything that's going to cause you a temptation. Like even if that's you're living with your significant other but you're not married, and like y'all have been walking in sexual sin, move out. You know, like I don't care how much money it costs you. You know, it's worth it to walk in the Lord's will. Like it feels like you're like enslaving yourself and like following these rules, but once you get out of it, it's so freeing. Like I never was like, man, I really miss having Snapchat and like going to party. I was like, man, praise God that I don't do these things anymore. Like I have so much more fun on the weekends now. So
okay, so let me ask you this question. So now, like I said, in ministry and everything, when was it that faith became your own? When was it that faith became real to you? I mean, you can live off your family, your parents, like you can do it for a certain time, but when was it that faith became real to you? When was it you had that like, I know this God now? Like when was that real to you?
I feel like there were so many moments in life where that was solidified. In that moment that I like surrendered drinking, like I knew like faith was real in that. But I would say secondarily, in a like something that wasn't black and white, sin or not sin, choosing my career, that was me watching like God become even more real, because I was like, okay, this is like, we're talking about money, we're talking about my future, and I can go down either path. And so, Lord, like, what am I supposed to do? And it was when God was calling me into ministry that, like, I was like, okay, wait, this is about to be, like, my job. Because I was going to be a physical therapist. So, like, going into ministry was very, like, uncertain. Like, pay was going to be less. My job was going to be harder with, like, a spiritual weight. Like, still physical therapists do a lot. And, like, they have paperwork and all the things. So I'm not saying it's not, it's not easy. But it was going to be a different weight that I was going to be carrying. And I was so specific with the Lord. I was like, God, you've got to make this clear as day. Like if I'm going to do this. And so for 4 months, I didn't tell like anybody that like I felt the calling to ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was hiding it in. I
Yeah.
never cry. I was crying. I was like, Lord, are you sure? Like
Yeah.
I'm ready to run because I don't want to do this. And he just showed up like in every way possible, like through people telling me like, hey, are you gonna like work in a church after this? Like you're really great at this. Like the small
Really?
things where I was like, why are you telling me that? But it was just like step after step after step. And in July of, I guess it would have been maybe 2022,
Okay.
I wrote a prayer that said, Lord, if you're calling me into ministry, would you make it abundantly clear?
Yeah.
Which I had already been praying.
Yeah, I need 3 yeses.
Yes. Yeah, I need everything.
Confirmations.
Everything. And I remember the next week, one of the junior high ministers called me into his office and he was like, hey, I think you could do my job better than me. And so I'm going to ask you to take this position. It was free, by the way, which for me, I'm frugal. I love to save money. So to take a free position and quit a job was a lot.
Yeah.
But whenever he asked me that, I was like, all right, yep. Like this is as clear as day.
Yeah.
And so faith in a way of like choosing it for my future career and like my future life, like everything was going to be impacted by that, became very real. And God showed up in very like real ways of like being so kind. So kind to answer all my Lord make it clear prayers.
Yes.
So
thank you so much for your support in Faith Ignite. And I just want to challenge and encourage you just to take your support just a little bit further. In order for us to reach the mission and vision that God has called us to as a ministry, we realize we need help. We realize we need support. And this is why we realize we need you. In order for us to take these messages of faith around the world, it's going to require partnership from people all over. And so we're going to ask if you feel led to go and partner with us, go ahead and follow the link that's linked down below, and it'll take you to our website, and you can be able to partner with us there. But just know that when you partner with us, you are helping us to take these stories of faith around the world. People, by listening to these stories, people will know that God is real. People will know that God is true. People will know that God is alive and well, and he's doing things in the life of his children. And those stories deserve to be heard. And so thank you so much in advance for helping us to take these stories of faith around the world to the people that need them. We love you guys. I know, we all had those moments where it's like, we ask God, kind of like the Gideon moment, put the fleece out.
Right.
Lord, I remember this because I thought I needed to do full-time ministry. I remember when I was in the Bahamas, I went out one morning and I was like, Lord, it was the opposite. I thought I was going to do ministry, but I was like, I need you to confirm this. And I was like, Lord, I need you to kind of make the car wet because we didn't have anything. So I was like, make the car wet, make the ground dry. Yeah. That didn't happen.
Yep.
That didn't happen. And I was like, but you did it for Gideon. Yeah. Why can't you do it for me?
Right.
And I was like, but then as time went on, he was able to confirm it through other ways. I wanted it this way, but he confirmed it another way. He had a man come into my life, a prophet, and confirm like, you're supposed to be doing this. Yeah. You're on your path. And I was like, well, it came 4 years later, but the answer came.
Right.
And that's all that matters.
And at the right timing. Yeah, mine was a slow process too. There were times I was like, I'm going to set a cloth outside. I really was like, Lord, but then I was like, wait, but is he actually going to do that? Or am I just like joking myself out right now? So being in ministry with a lot of youth, what is it that you're seeing that generation is having a hard time with or struggling with? And how do you think maybe us as believers, we can help better come alongside youth ministers and other people in the church to help equip these kids? That's a great question. So much. I think the biggest thing they're like wrestling through is just like the pressures from the world, to be completely honest. Yeah. And then I think the enemy's greatest hold he has is busyness. I mean, seriously, my students are always busy. It's like they don't get a second. Like they go to practice and then they go to school and then they go to their second practice and then they have all this homework and then they have this, and it's just like never ending. And then they spend like 12 hours on their phone. I'm like, how do you spend all that time on your phone when you have all this going on all day long? But somewhere in there, they're finding it. And, I mean, if you scroll on Instagram Reels long enough, like there's weird stuff on there and it just leads you astray sometimes. Social media is great. It can be used as a great tool, but it is used a lot of ways wrongly for our students. And so busyness combined with pressures from this world are just like, I mean, it's like you're setting 100-pound weights on kids who are not 100 pounds because they're having to grow up so fast.
Yes.
And then like divorce rates are high and all of this, like we just live in a really broken world, and it's really clear that it's broken because of social media.
Yeah.
And so everything is just misconstrued. So that's hard to watch. And honestly, the best way people can come alongside student ministers is discipling kids well wherever they are. So it's like, if you guys are a really great couple, like have kids and disciple the kids well, and adopt kids and help other kids. Like whenever you come across them, like love them. They're not getting love in a lot of places they're going.
Yeah.
And so like make sure they know they're cared for.
Yeah.
But the best kids I have are the ones who their family members are there for them, discipling them and showing them what it means to be a Christian. Not like what I had whenever I grew up, where it was like rules and like church every once in a while, but like show them what it means to have a relationship with Christ. And if that means telling them that they can't practice soccer on Sunday when they have competitive games, that's what it means. But show them it's not bad. Show them how freeing it is to get to go to church, and then people ask you, how come you missed a soccer game yesterday? And it's like, oh, I was at church. Yeah. And so just to show them that lifestyle is the best way that people can come alongside us.
Yeah, the Bible talks about training up a child when they're young. When they get old, they'll never depart from it. Never says what happens in the middle, but it said when they get old, they won't depart from it. And so seeing like how, setting those foundations and those principles early it has a lasting impact. It really does. And like I want to even shout out, what's her name, Micah?
Yeah.
If Micah, if you're watching this, I just want you to know how much of an impact you made on Alleigh. Maybe you might have not known it in that moment, but you made a huge impact. And like we have the opportunity to tell other people. We may not. We don't have to. They might be living a different kind of life, but we can show the love of God in a way that just seems humane. Yeah. And in doing so, it plants a seed, and eventually that seed's going to take root, and it's going to grow and produce something. And so, my encouragement to you, like you may know someone in your life that you're believing that is going to get saved, like. You can do it in a way where it doesn't seem judgmental, or it doesn't seem like you're pressuring them. Like you could just do the simple thing. Pick someone out from after a party. And it makes all the difference. And so, Alleigh, one way we always like to end every podcast is this. If you can go back in time, if you can pull young Alleigh aside. Yeah. And you say, hey, listen here, I'm from 10 years in the future. You save yourself a lot of time. What would you tell yourself or someone that's listening on the other end of the camera?
Yeah, I would tell myself that it is not about the rules in religion, because I think that's what kept me out of my faith and out of knowing God, was just because I was like, man, but I'm not going to get to do all these things that I've been doing. It's talked down upon, to just like let that go and realize it's about a relationship and that like God loves you so much that he doesn't want this for you. Yeah. That's what I needed to understand, is like, he's not trying to take something from you. He's actually trying to give you something. But because you feel like he's like going to take these things from you, you're giving yourself a whole lot more heartache and a whole lot more hurt by putting yourself through this. And so like, just let it go and trust that when you surrender it, he's going to give you something greater in return.
Wow. I don't think you can say it any better than that. I think your younger self would be proud of that. Of that answer. I definitely, honestly,
my younger self might have fought it, honestly. Well, my younger self might have said, I don't know about that.
Like, how can I go intentionally? How can I go against this?
Yep, maybe.
Oh, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Alleigh here. Thank you so much for taking some time to have this conversation with us. I really appreciate it, and I get to see you in a different light. I get to see because you showed up 2-3 years ago at the church, and I'm like, okay, well, cool. I mean, she's been doing student ministry, but I didn't know the backstory. Yeah. But now I do, but I'm so grateful because God is good and gracious. Yeah. Like to see how he's done a work in your heart, and now you can be able to do the same in the lives of those other students. And so thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap this episode up for today. But like I said in the beginning, hey, if this content is helping you, shaping you, motivating you, encouraging you, hey, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you are aware when more episodes like this drop. And if you want to take it one step further, like I said, you can partner with us. Follow the link below. It'll take you to our website, and you can become a financial partner with this ministry so we can take these stories of faith around the world to the people that need them. And then lastly, like I said, if you have something going on in your life, we would love to know about it. You can drop a comment below. We would love to celebrate what God's doing in your life, and we can be able to see what God is doing and be able to celebrate his goodness and his faithfulness to you and your family. And so Why am I tongue tied? And so I'm supposed to be wrapping this up. But ladies and gentlemen, like I said, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. We love you. My name is Devon Williamson, and we'll see you back at the next episode of Faith Ignite.